Sometimes I feel my heart is moving slow, and I pray it keeps on beating. And I'm sitting here with fish and loaves and no miracles worth making.
We took a moment with local author and musician David Nash. David has released a number of albums and singles, including his newest album, Rise. David shares his process, his influences, and names a few of his favorite songs to perform, along with chatting about a recent book release, The Man in the Pines. You can find more conversations on our website, lacrosselocal.com. I'm Amy, and he's Brent, and this is Lacrosse Local.
My name is David Nash, and I was born in Rochester, Minnesota. Music has always kind of been around, and I've always listened to it. Early age, having a tape cassette in my bedroom, I remember taking naps with music playing and then flipping the tape when it would get done, and started acquiring CDs later. And I remember, I think I was in 5th or 6th grade, I had a Jimi Hendrix CD, and I said, oh man, I want to learn that lick on Voodoo Child. And that was the first time I realized I could start, playing music and emulate somebody that I really admired.
Just going through some of your different albums and singles and just kind of going through your Bandcamp, I feel like I can find some musical influences there, but what are some of your musical influences?
I mentioned the Jimi Hendrix thing. I definitely wouldn't say that if you listen to my music, that probably isn't the first thing that would come to mind. But after my infatuation with like classic rock and Dire Straits and Steve Miller Band, sometime around 7th grade, I know I started listening to Dave Matthews, and that was, I think, the first performer. When I found an acoustic guitar, I thought, oh man, I would really like to sing like that. I got a chance to see him live when I was pretty young. And so early on, when I would try and learn how to play songs, that was probably a major influence. But I think of that as probably the early influence stuff, and maybe there's some foundation there. I listen to so much music, and I go through these phases where I really dive into other musicians, and I find that a lot of my albums then take these little turns. For several years, I was really into Ryan Adams, and then it was Josh Ritter or Tallest Man on Earth, Gillian Welch, and whatever, John Prine. It's hard not to be influenced by whoever you're sort of infatuated with. And each time I write a new group of songs, I'm usually trying to just slowly grow as an artist. So I think I probably pull from whoever I'm listening to at that time, to be honest.
On that note, you have a number of different albums, singles. What goes in the process of creating those albums?
Well, I write a lot. I really enjoy the process of writing songs, sort of always pursuing a song that hits the mark. And I play live maybe. Right now I don't play live, but in general, I was playing live maybe like once a month or maybe once every 6 weeks, which allows for a lot of time in the basement behind closed doors, just writing and playing new things. And I don't really get into playing covers too much. So usually I'll be writing for a few months, and all of a sudden I might write 40 or 50 songs in a year, and maybe some of them are rough ideas and some are more polished, but all of a sudden you'll just sort of see this group of songs coalesce together, and you go, hey, that represents sort of something I've been working on in terms of a sound, maybe vocally or different tunings in a guitar. And the moment will feel right, and it'll feel like it's time to put that together and turn into an album. And I've slowly been trying to up my at-home recording game, very slowly, I would say. But I have had the opportunity to work with a few other people too, to try and, when I have a project I feel is really special, I want to put more effort into, then I reach out to some others for help too.
Following along, it's kind of like a throwback to the different times it seemed like you were going through versus just collection of songs. You could really identify and see what was going on in your life at that time. On the new album, Rise, that's the newest album from you, correct?
Yep. Yeah, that just came out July 21st.
So off that one, what's probably like the track that you're most fond of?
There's a song on Rise called Long Goes the Apple Tree, which is probably one of the more simple ones in a lot of ways.
Coffee just doesn't taste the same when I drink it alone. Long goes the morning.
But the way it came together really struck with me and makes it really fun to play. I remember I think it was like a Saturday morning, and I have kids, and it's hard to find much time in your own mind when like the kids need pancakes and like the TV isn't working. And But I remember I was kind of that sort of moment of inspiration struck, and I was, oh, I need to write down this idea. And I had this sort of idea for maybe a verse. And then at the same time, I had another idea for a different verse for a different song, totally different projects, but they came pretty well formed. And then I think it was the next day or the next night I sat down, and they just, the two different songs came together so perfectly, like hands sort of folding together. It was something I didn't expect, and I'd never sort of taken two songs and two different writing projects, and the way it married felt really special and unique. So that song for sure stood out for me.
Talking to a lot of area musicians, this COVID time has kind of been either an opportunity for creativity. It's also been horrible times in terms of earning money as a musician. How did you find this experience? Was it an outlet for creativity, or was it just a panic attack every day?
It was definitely an emotional roller coaster, I would say. I'm fortunate in that I have a job in healthcare, and I was able to keep working in that way. I had a lot of time where I was at home and I was with my kids in different situations, which was a beautiful thing and an opportunity. But creatively, I hit a total wall. I couldn't write. I couldn't do anything that I usually was doing, writing songs or writing stories and some other stuff that I've been working on. And it really slammed shut. But then I think as I started taking time to process a lot of what's been happening this summer, I was able to get back into it a little bit. One of the things I'd wanted to do is, knowing that like I still had a little money coming in, I wanted to sort of help some of the other musicians I knew. So that's where Rise kind of came together. Actually, I had a group of songs I had written really over the spring and then the winter, and they were songs about rebirth and being sort of washed clean and second chances and floods come, like what comes next, and sort of thinking of like the election, honestly, and stuff like that. But then it became sort of applicable. So I reached out to Landon Sheely. I said, oh, maybe I could see if he could help me with some artwork. And then I have someone I worked with before who had just had a baby. He owns a studio in Rochester. And I thought, well, maybe they could, I'm not going to go there, but I could send them a group of these songs and they could do some mastering, and I could, support them while they help me. But then all of a sudden it was like something switched, and I was able to write a song again. And I put together a few more songs that I put on the CD that are kind of unpolished. The last 4 are all just in my basement, and they didn't get mastered by the studio. But it definitely hit a standstill, and I'm not one to do the virtual streaming thing. That was hard for me. I did do one show at Trempealeau Hotel. That was fun, but there's so many other people doing great streaming things that I didn't need to try and flood that market. It's just been it's such an interesting ride, but definitely was emotionally up and down for a while, I would say.
So what's next for you in the next couple months?
I'm writing again, and I want to try and find a few different ways to sing, and maybe some post-production stuff that would be different. I'm working on another story. I published a novel this year. I had a release party scheduled for late April at Triple Stack Brewery, and then everything totally closed. So I released a book into the void of COVID, and I might do a re-release party or something. I'm thinking for that, maybe like an or something, because that a lot of work went into that, writing that novel, and I was really happy with that project. But it was just funny to release it at this time. But I've got another story I'm working on, which has been fun to explore too. So always writing, always trying new things. There's just so many fun things to do and play with. Just going to keep writing and exploring that a bit.
So if people want to find out more about your book, Man in the Pines, or check out your music, where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, I've got a Facebook page, David Nash Music, Instagram account as well. Is probably where most of my social media presence would be. The book, The Man in the Pines, you can call your local bookstore and they can order it. You can reach out to me through Facebook and I can get you a copy. It is also available on the big sort of online retailers as well. My music can be streamed on any of the sites. You can purchase it digitally through Bandcamp, David Nash Music. If you search that, you'll find me.
La Crosse Local Podcast is a production of River Travel Media. Do you have an interview idea you would like to share with us? Message us on Facebook at La Crosse Locals. Subscribe to the La Crosse Local Podcast on your favorite podcast app. If you like us, rate us 5 stars. We thank you for it.